So I will now move on to introducing our speakers and facilitators for today. Erin Cox is a lead recovery coach at Voices of Hope and has worked at Voices for a little over 2 years. Erin is a person in long-term recovery and will have 6 years in January. During her time at Voices, Erin has shared her success with MOUD and was a panelist on a webinar focused on MOUD. Her story has been featured in a campaign via social media, and a quote from her story has been added in a curriculum that will be used by healthcare providers in 5 different states. We also welcome Kathy today. Kathy is a person in long-term recovery from opioid use and substance use and will celebrate 2 years of recovery in July. Kathy has been employed at Voices of Hope since April of this year and works as the administrative assistant to housing and barrier relief, as well as a peer support in Madison County. Kathy also facilitates SMART meetings in Fayette County and teaches overdose response training. So welcome to our speakers, and thank you for being willing to lead and facilitate us throughout this session on recovery during the holidays.
So, practice gap in education needs. Maintaining recovery often requires keeping a detailed schedule, active planning, and being accountable to your support network during the holidays. Many people have different schedules, travel, and see new and different people. The changes in schedule, location, and support network may cause triggers or require additional support. By understanding how holidays can impact recovery, people in recovery and people supporting others can plan accordingly during the holidays.
Learning objectives, review information about relapse prevention and how to deal with difficult situations during the holidays, identify common triggers and cravings during the holidays, and review responses to those triggers and cravings.
Expected outcomes. After participating in this activity, participants will be able to assess and respond to the challenges that the holidays can present to people in recovery and be aware of strategies that can help avoid return to use during the holiday season.
So the first slide is looking back at the holidays and just sharing a little bit on our first memories. How did the holidays seem as a child? Preserved memories, bad memories, holidays while in active use, lack of family connection, because I know the holidays can be different for all of us. So for me, I remember my first holiday in recovery of going back home and being around my family. It was almost like walking on eggshells because I was really nervous and overwhelmed. I didn't really know what to expect because it'd been a few years since I had been around. But it ended up being, a really good holiday. And every year since then, I've been able to go back home and spend that time with my family and my children and enjoy the holidays. So I look forward to the holidays. Kathy, do you want to share a little bit?
Yeah. So my first memories of recovery in the holidays was a little bit different. My kids are adopted, and so my parents go and see my children every year and for Christmas. So I spent my first holiday in recovery in a sober living with other women that were experiencing the same thing that I was. And it was nice to see that even though I didn't have that family to go home to during the Christmas holidays, that I had other support and meetings and different people that were there to support me and that are going through the same thing. So during the holidays, I do spend a lot of time with other people that are having the same experiences as I do, and it really helps. And then when I was a child, holidays when I was a child was really, really good. Had a big family, so it was definitely a transition from when I was a child. Once my grandparents passed away, that kind of went away. So I have preserved memories of them and the big family, and I do miss that a lot. You want to share about that, Erin?
What? I'm sorry, I was reading a comment. What did you say there?
Go ahead. I'll go ahead. I'll just share on all of them. So bad memories for me is probably, when I became an active use, my grandmother had passed away and things changed. And then as I actively was using over the years, I had lost my children. They became adopted, and there was no such thing as holidays to me anymore. I did not celebrate them. So it was a sad time. I just kind of ignored that the holidays were ever happening. And there was just no lack of connection with family there. And so it's really good that I'm starting to, like, this Thanksgiving was the first Thanksgiving that I've had with my parents, even though it was just my parents. So, it does turn around and it has gotten better for me over the holidays.
Well, good. I'm glad because I know, like, I was thinking about this the other day too. Christmas especially can be hard for me because my dad passed away on December 26th. And so, and of course I was a daddy's girl, so that can be really hard, but I try to look at the positive of all of it because, I don't have my grandparents here anymore. So the holidays today are, just with my siblings and my mom. But we make the best of it and I do look forward to it. And I do enjoy spending time with them. But growing up, it was always numerous Christmases or numerous Thanksgivings we were going to because, we had both set of grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, we all done it together. And then today it's not that way. And it's probably that way for a lot of people. But, losing my dad was probably the hardest and makes it the hardest to get through the holidays. But I don't know, I just have that good family connection with, my mom, my sister, and my brother. And then, of course, I have my kids, which I don't get to see my daughter, but, I continue to pray about it and stay strong in my faith. And I know that eventually that doorway will open. But I do have the preserved memories, with my dad and Christmas and Thanksgiving and other holidays when I was younger. I always had great holidays. Even when we didn't have a lot, we still had great holidays. And so I'm thankful and grateful for that. Does anybody else want to share on their experience?
I was very scared. I went to prison. That's how I got into recovery. And I'd been alienated from my family for about 5 years. So I had to parole out to my mom's house. So my first holidays were spent around my family. And I was a nervous wreck. Growing up, like you all, I had good childhood memories around Christmas and the holidays and stuff, but I'd left a wreckage behind me. Like it was like a path of destruction. So I wasn't sure, and I kind of typed that in the chat. I just wasn't sure how they were going to respond to me. But I also was ready to accept whatever came my way because I know that they were just acting accordingly to how I'd done. Does that make sense? Like I had to build that trust back with them. But I look forward to it now. So it's all worked out. But it was really hard, at first, for only the first couple of years. So
What is recovery? So, SAMHSA definition: recovery is a process of change through which individuals improve their health and wellness, live self-directed lives, and strive to reach their full potential. Recovery means lots of things to many people. There are many pathways to recovery. There's not a one-size-fits-all mindset anymore. Everything from complete abstinence to medication to harm reduction are all widely accepted forms. All recovery pathways are valid. Saying differently is irresponsible and could cost lives. Next slide.
Principles of effective treatment. No single treatment is appropriate for everyone. Medications are an important treatment for many patients. Effective treatment attends to multiple needs of the individual. Behavioral therapies and counseling are the most common forms of treatments. Treatment service plans should be modified to meet changing needs.
So MOUD is my pathway, and MOUD has been a lifesaver for me because it's gave me the ability to be able to rebuild my life from the ground up. Without it, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And I truly am thankful for that and the tools that, were provided to me to be able to get where I'm at today in life. Because today, I have a job where I'm surrounded by people that, I love. I have my family. I have my children, and, we're working on rebuilding that relationship. I have a home, a vehicle, everything that I need. And when I first started my recovery journey, I had just came out of jail with a cell phone, and the clothes on my back, and that was it. And so I started over from, from nothing, and have, gotten to where I'm at today because of that. So I'm grateful for that.
Thanks, Erin. So my pathway to recovery is MOUD as well, and 12-step. Without MOUD, I would not be sitting where I'm at today. I do deal with a lot of chronic pain, and it does help with that. Like Erin, I went to treatment and had nothing. I had no friends. I had lost everything that mattered to me, and so with the help of MOUD, I'm able to work this job that I have now. I was able to get an apartment, get a car. I'm working on building those relationships back with my family and other people that are experiencing the same thing. And then I'm also in 12-step, which has helped me to lean on my faith and build a very large support network. And I was really surprised about the people in 12-step that are open to the MOUD pathway, as before when I went through 12 steps a long time ago, that they were close to that. So it's been a very blessing to have the two and be able to see both of them work together today. Comparison of 12-step programs and mutual support programs. AA, 12 steps, 12 traditions, spirituality, abstinence-based, sponsorship required for step work. NA, 12 steps, 12 traditions, spirituality, abstinence-based, sponsorship required for step work. MARA, 12 step, 12 traditions, MOUD accepted, sponsorship optional, smart recovery, 4-point recovery system, welcomes MOUD, and then Celebrate Recovery is the 12 Christ-centered steps and 8 traditions.
So how do the holidays impact daily life? For example, schedule and routine changes, less time, focused on our recovery, more family time. What are some other things that are impacted during the holidays?
For me, financial, you have to buy Christmas presents, and you have more events to go to. Like you said, your schedule changes. The lack there of family that I do not have in my life that I wish that was there, has also affected the holidays and how I feel around the holidays.
Yeah. Brandon put in the comments here in the chat, stress. I mean, absolutely, because I feel like I'm just, your emotions, it's so overwhelming to, we have 5 kids total, but between bills, getting up, going to work every day, you've got Christmas to buy for the kids and everybody else that you want to buy for. And it just, there's a lot of expectations, I feel like, as well. And so it puts a lot of stress on you, and you feel like you have to do certain things or you're not going to have a good Christmas. But I also feel like it's important just to remember that, you don't always have to go all out, to have a good Christmas. There's a lot of other ways to spend the holidays besides breaking your back trying to buy every gift. So
yeah, I know for me, like, I'm very grateful for the time that I do get to spend with my family or the new friends and family that I have made through my recovery journey. And like the old me would have took those for granted. So like the special times really mean more to me than they ever have this holiday.
yeah, absolutely. Does anybody want to share anything? Okay, we can go to the next slide.
I was going to just say one quick thing, but that, and hope that's okay, and others can chime in. But I don't know if others, but for my perspective, I think it can be sometimes a challenge. You acknowledge loss a little bit more during the holidays at times. I'm sure that, or I would imagine many others can relate. And of course, you guys have already kind of shared your own stories of people, either from around the holidays that were lost, or just that you missed during that time. But I think it's the opportunities that I know you guys are going to talk about throughout here, and you all being there as recovery support and other roles that you have can kind of help people lean on and see the things that they do still have during the holidays. So I know it can be challenging to combat that loss, but I'm grateful for you all to, in everyone's role, to be able to provide some of that support and the things that are present during the holidays.
So how can these changes impact recovery? For example, working longer hours, less time to attend mutual aid meetings, and etc. Added stressors. What are some other things you can think of, Kathy?
So like I already said, trying to put expectations on family members and what I expect things to be for the holidays and what they really are. Like you said, not having much time to get everything in. Probably my biggest one is, the absence of family members for me.
Yeah, I think that's my biggest impact as well, is just not having certain family members around anymore. That loss that Chris was talking about. I don't, my dad's not here anymore, my grandparents, and so that can be hard, but I just try to make the best of it. Does anybody else want to share anything?
Yeah, I was getting ready to type it in there. Like the added stressors, like for me personally, I've got a brother that's in active addiction, and that's just like, I try to spend some time with him, but I make sure it's in the proper spots, instead of just like showing up at his house and doing that. It kind of got to navigate that. That's a little added stress for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Definitely
got
having
something.
family members that are in active use, or even family members that may, drink a little bit more on the holidays is definitely a challenge to be around, because we're not used to being around that, anymore. So that can be triggering to deal with their emotions and their actions and how they act. So thanks for sharing that, Brandon.
Yeah.
I think somebody said something about depression in the chat.
Yeah, I
I
got
was
something to share. So I remember early on in recovery, whenever I would be going to family members and stuff, like there's a lot of bridges that we have burned, right? So a lot of times we feel like this is a good time to try to make these amends and try to work through our problems, but really it's just the time to be present and allow them to see changes that we're making, because there's always a time and place for things like that. And like whenever you've done a lot of hurtful things, maybe it's just good for them to see the change in you instead of trying to force them to see that change or trying to make that amends, because it can cause a lot of problems. But then not only you and that person, but the whole family involved.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And thank you for sharing that. And Shirley said in the chat, this is going to be her first Christmas without her sister. That's going to be hard. I'm sorry, Shirley, because, I kind of know how that feels to, a lot of us knows what that feels like, having that first holiday without a loved one. But, make sure you lean on your support system. Most definitely.
I think Brandy had something she was going to say.
So I have family that's still in active addiction, but I also have a cousin that's in recovery. And so yesterday I took a day off to keep her schedule busy, because it was the 16th anniversary of her son passing away, and our sons are 4 months apart. So we went on a shopping spree, and then I was able to end the day taking her to the cemetery and stuff.
Well, that's awesome that you could do that for her and be there.
Yeah, and she appreciated it, because, if it wasn't for somebody pushing, she would have just stayed in bed all day. But I did it, because I care about her and I love her. And, we try to look out for others to keep them on the right path.
Shauna put in the chat that she has family that's, in jail, and that those aren't an active addiction, but they're in jail, and how difficult that can be to have family in jail and not be home. So yeah, that's definitely another stressor, trying to be there for them, support them, worried about when they get out, and like missing them there on the holidays. Yes.
Yeah, most definitely. And I can, my spouse, his family is a very toxic, unhealthy environment and family. And so the holidays can be hard for him, because of that. He doesn't get to go spend the holidays with them really, because they don't really do anything, and it's just, it can be hard for him, and sometimes I think I forget that and can be a little hard on him. So I might need to stop sometimes and kind of think about that as well. It's not just about how I feel or what I want for the holidays. There's other people that are affected by, negativity within their family. Their family structure isn't as healthy as, some others, or there's still people that are in active addiction and using. And so that can be hard, around the holidays.
There was somebody else in the chat that said that they work at the detention center and how difficult it is for the people that the participants they're working with, because they can't be with their family and feel I know I've spent holidays in jail and how difficult that is, and feeling like I'm missing out, and wanting to do better, and how difficult that is, and it's lonely in there, and we just want to be home with our families, and we want to do right, and we want to do better, and yeah, that's a very difficult time there as well. Thanks for sharing that. You can go to the next slide. Nobody else has anything else to share? What was the first holiday in recovery like? So for me, I shared a little bit about that. I was living in a sober living house with other women. My parents had went to go see my children. They are with my first cousin, and I'm not welcome there because they don't believe addiction is a disease. They believe it's a choice. So I'm not welcome at those family gatherings, and that's sad. It hurts my feelings. Although I do understand I did a lot of harm there. So I was depressed and missing my children, but I was able to spend time with other women. We cooked, we made candy, we watched movies, we went to meetings, and it was nice to have that support and family with me. And then this holiday I'm able to go to my brothers and see them, and I was able to go down there during Thanksgiving and see my niece and nephew. So things, I'm hopeful that I will get to see my children, and I'm hopeful that one day I will get to be a part of my family and have those holidays. But my first holiday in recovery was pretty good. I had all the support I needed. So
Yeah, that's awesome, and I hope you do get to see your kids one day soon too. I know what that's like. My first holiday in recovery, it was good, but it was hard. Because when you're actively using, you're numbing all of those emotions and feelings that you don't want to feel. So that first holiday in recovery, it really hit me, the grief of not having my dad there. And not having, my kids there the way that I wanted. So it was hard, but it was a good day, because again, I was surrounded by, my family that did love me and did support me. And, they got to see the new me, because I was a new person. I was somebody who was not what, that's not what I used to be, for sure. And so it was just, I don't know, it was different, but it was good. So does anybody want to share about their first holiday in recovery?
I know I was relieved to get back to my support and get away from my family just a little bit after it was over with. Just because it was nerves. I was 5 months. So I started my journey in August, and then come Christmas, it was just nerve-wracking. I was being watched a lot, which is fine, and I expect that even to this day still, because I've left enough wreckage behind me that I deserve that much. But I know I was just relieved once I left my family to get back around my support people, for real.
Yeah, absolutely. Patrick, do you have your hand raised?
Yeah. like kind of like what Brandon said, I was only like 5 or 6 months clean whenever we got our first holiday back around the kids, and I was all gung ho and all this stuff. I didn't go see my family, but we went and seen my wife's family because they're the ones who had the kids. And like I went there with this expectation that everything was going to be perfect, rainbows and unicorns type thing. And I got there and like my anxiety level went through the roof immediately. And then my blood pressure naturally shot up. I became very distant and very shut down. And then, all the kids were there. They were playing, hooping and hollering, running around like banshees and stuff. And like that made me angry. I thought I was mentally ready for, to be back around the kids and stuff, but that wasn't the case at all. Like it actually made me angry. And then it made me even more angry because I thought that I should be okay with the kids hooping and hollering and stuff. But in all reality, I wasn't ready for that yet. I'd been in treatment, I'd been in jail, I'd been in sober living after all that, and I was used to one thing. And then the extreme change, the 100-mile-an-hour change from one thing to the other almost drove me over the edge, honestly. And like Brandon said, I could not wait. I was standing by the door with my phone waiting on the ride to show up for us to go back to Lexington, and so I think that's something that I paid attention to that, through that next year was, for one, not setting expectations for sure. And then just trying to take it slow, like not beating myself up so bad for being me, I didn't make peace with the fact that the kids made me angry until 6, 7 months later, and then I was like, well, you know what? I just wasn't ready, but yeah, it about threw me over the edge. It really did. And it was all positive emotions at first. It was a positive experience, a positive thing. And it, just those positive emotions alone about drove me to throw everything away.
No, thank you for that, Patrick.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing, Patrick. I hear that a lot from different people that I'm friends with that I've had that same experience. And talk about exit plans, having a plan for who you can call, how you can leave. Don't park behind somebody, make sure you can get out if you need to leave. Just have that plan set forth. I'll share that a lot with the people that are in recovery with me, that stress going to their family's house during the holidays and having somebody to call. So thanks for sharing that. That helps a lot.
So how can a person in recovery or a concerned loved one help address these challenges? A person in recovery, address concerns or challenges which you fear will arise with your sponsor or support network. Know where meetings are being held so that you're able to attend one, if needed. Be prepared to just listen and be present, be open and honest. If a friend and a loved one, you can educate yourself if you are not familiar with substance use disorder. Talk to difficult family members about proper boundaries. Boundaries are always important. And listen and be present. Next slide.
Talking with family and having difficult conversations. People in recovery. Identify supportive versus unsupportive people. Setting boundaries. What can you control? Time and place for difficult or important conversations. What are your goals for the holiday? Listening is important. And then friends and loved ones. Who can you control? Overcome impulses to fix, nag, and protect. Enabling versus reinforcing behaviors. Listening is important. Any other ideas any of y'all might have on that? I know for me, a big one is, wanting to fix other people, that control and wanting them to not be the way they are, trying to get them to, mold to what I think they should be. So, and then being understanding and happy and empathy with others. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to share to that?
Yeah, I think it's really important to know who you are. know what you like, what you don't like, and things like that. Like personally, my recovery, it was centered in, retraining my brain on who I am and what I do. Because recovery, you become a whole new person. There's remnants of the old person there, but generally you replace everything with all, new behaviors, new habits, and things like that. So if you know what you like, what you don't like, what's good, what's not good, then you're more apt to be able to set those boundaries and identify those supportive and unsupportive people.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the setting boundaries for me was the biggest thing because I had a bad habit of people pleasing. So in order to make my family happy, I'd kind of go along with whatever they wanted, even if I didn't want to, because I wanted them to accept me. Does that make sense? Like I wanted to be accepted into the family. So I didn't set healthy boundaries with them. And then I ended up being more anxious or overwhelmed because it was things that I really didn't want to do anyway.
I know me personally right now, I'm working on setting boundaries really tough in my life with a lot of people in my life. I have a lot of toxic family members and a lot of toxic friends that I've acquired over the course of my, cycles of addiction. And I have a lot of unsupportive family members and a lot of family members that don't see me for who I am or understand who I am or necessarily support me in my recovery because they're used to me failing. They're used to me repeating the same old cycles. So they expect that of me and they're really unsupportive of me. And I kind of use that as my motivator to continue doing good. Like all those people that, doubt me, I want to show them, that they're wrong. And I'm trying to do that by setting healthy boundaries. And I'm struggling with understanding or recognizing when I'm setting a healthy boundary versus when I'm being, lack of better terms, being an a-hole. Is this a boundary or am I just being unreceptive, unresponsive, unaccepting of something else? And I'm trying to find the balance between the two, and hopefully I will one day.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing.
I like how you got listening. Listening is important on both sides. Because like as Kathy said, we like to put our fix-it hat on and go around not only fixing everyone else's problems, but trying to fix problems that we created. So I think it's important to just sit down and listen and just be present and not really try to speak because like I got this fix-it problem too. And I want to change everyone's perspective or way they see me. And so like Patrick said, I think it's important to know who you are and understand that sometimes things take time and patience. So sometimes just being still and listening is really important on my side of the way I see things.
Most definitely.
I usually participate, but this is a touchy subject, and I'm not sure if I could. That's why I'm not participating.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'm listening though, and so many things that you all talked about just hits home.
Well, I understand. You don't have to participate, but I hope, that at least this gives you some type of comfort, and, make sure you reach out to your support system. If you need somebody to talk to, you can always call me. I'll be there to listen if you need.
I appreciate that. I'm good. I just wanted to say that's why I'm not participating. You are doing a great job though.
Well, thank you.
And this is such an important topic for a lot of people.
Yeah.
The holidays are really hard because it's really easy that we can focus on the negative and like what we don't have and what we have lost and all the damage we have caused. And if we let ourselves get sucked into that, like we can go back out there really, really fast. So, you know, I try to remember all the things I've overcome and like all the things I've done in the amount of time I've done them in. And like I still try to hold on to that hope and that things will get better and that the holidays will be better one day, you know, but I also find gratitude in today and what people I do have and how grateful I am for them. You know, thanks for sharing, Jamie.
Yeah, I mean, I know,
Go ahead, Erin. Sorry.
well, I was just gonna say, I know a lot of this can be triggering for so many of us, because we are talking about some sensitive and emotional stuff here. So if, you know, if there's any of this that is too much for you, you know, feel free to step away for a second. You know, if there's anybody that, you know, needs somebody to listen, I'm here. You can always reach out to me. You know, I will be a listening ear, a crying shoulder, whatever is needed for anybody. So.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to I wanted to just say thank you all, you know, of course, Aaron and Kathy for facilitating this, but for everyone that's being so candid and open. And you know, for me, just even from my perspective, the openness to be vulnerable and to show that you don't, not everything is happy, and it's okay for everything not to be happy, and this type of, you know, and sharing support for one another. I hope you know, that see for one another is helpful. And I was just going to add maybe the other thing that you could say, you know, add to the slide is practicing self-care, just like Erin said. So of course we would encourage you to do the same thing in terms of stepping away from this session, if too much, but also just over the holidays in general, the thing to make sure that you're practicing your own self-care and getting the support that you need.
I just want to add something, Aaron, that something that I had to remind myself of when I first got home is that I had to look beyond my circumstances in that moment, if that makes sense. Like, I had to keep an open mind and know that my sisters weren't always going to have their purse for me. They're not always going to be whispering in the kitchen, wondering if I'm high. It's not always going to be this way, and that I had to trust that if I'm doing the right thing, that things will fall into place for me. And it wasn't overnight. Like, I was 20-year opiate addict, so I left quite a bit of destruction, you know, and I had to learn, like I said, just look past my circumstances of what was happening around me in that moment and try to enjoy it, and not like I'm an overthinker. So I would like tear it all apart. What did she mean by that? And it can be very overwhelming. Like you said, all those emotions and everything that we've numbed comes up like vomit, you know what I mean? And learning to process through that and just look beyond that and know that it's not always going to be this way.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And you know, it didn't take a day or two to destroy everything that we did, you know, in our path while we were out here in the madness. So it's going to take that same amount of time that it took for us to lose everything to gain it all back. But, you know, over time, putting in the work, being patient, all of that will begin to fall in place. Yes, you're right. We can go to the next slide. Okay, some tips here are to, you know, have a person that you can call, have an exit plan, have a redirection plan, bring a friend or have an ally. Don't fall in with others at risk behavior. Stay home if you need to. You know, what are some other tips that you all would like to share or that you can think of?
It's okay to say no. You don't have to say yes. You don't have to people please and go to the event if you don't want to, you know. Parking your vehicle where you can get out. Like it says, bring a friend with you. I don't know, anybody else have some others they can think of?
Yeah, I got so like when I go home to see my family and stuff, before I get into town, I fill up with gas and stuff because that whole place around me, like the first time I tried to get in recovery, I went back to I just stopped at a store and ran into a guy that I was really acquainted with and that could talk me in about anything. And he pretty much did that day. So I feel like just having that mindset of like filling up with gas, doing whatever you need to do, and just going to the place you're expected to go, and then leaving and going right back to where you came from because these little areas and little places can be devices of areas that can be devastating for our recovery. That was one thing that's one boundary that I'd placed for myself. And like you said, just that exit strategy, like taking accountability with you, taking someone that you know that has your heart's best intentions, like taking somebody with you that can be like, hey bro, I see some changes in you. Let's go ahead and get out of here, or like someone you can say, hey man, we gotta go. Just tell them we gotta leave or something like that. Just being mindful of them kind of things like that.
I had a friend in recovery that my first holidays home, um, she would call me she called me after I'd been there like 45 minutes to an hour. She wanted to check on me, and we kind of set that up that way. Um, and also now, even now, the anxiety I still feel being around a bunch of people is really bad. So, I don't feel guilty anymore about having to step outside and take a few minutes to myself just to catch my breath. I used to feel guilty about that, but I know that I have to allow myself that, because if not, then my anxiety gets the best of me. So, not feeling that guilt if you have to leave, or, my friend calling me, hey, how's it going? Are you okay? Like, do you need to leave? Or just checking on me. So, I think those are great tips too, and everything that's been said here, just being able to exit if you need to, and not feel the guilt about it. It was my first Christmas home, and I felt guilty because I was overwhelmed and wanted to leave. So,
Yeah, well, I mean, the holidays can be overwhelming. All of it can be very overwhelming and emotional and exhausting. So it's important to remember that you have the right to feel and set boundaries that you need to make sure that you are okay. And I think a lot of times I get lost in that, like worrying about what others might feel, worrying about what my mom might feel or my sister might feel if I do this or do this. But I can't do that because it has to be about me and my recovery and making sure that I'm okay and that I'm going to be okay. Anybody else have anything?
Yeah, I feel like we just have to be completely honest with ourselves and realize what we can and can't handle at the moment, and be able to say, okay, that's not good for me to put myself in that situation, and be okay with however anybody else feels about it. It really doesn't matter if we don't put ourselves first.
Right. Absolutely.
We also got in the chat that it says, keep your relapse prevention plan folded up in your pocket just in case you have a fleeting thought. Patrick put that in there. So yeah, saving numbers in your phone, that are at the top of your contact list that you can get to quickly, is also something else that I can think of to have that immediate. If I need somebody, they can be right there for me. So thanks for that.
Yeah, all of these are good. Does anybody else have anything? Okay, we can go to the next slide.
Creating a schedule. Make a time-sensitive plan for your holiday. Being preparing yourself emotionally and mentally ahead of time. Possibly take a friend, sponsor with you as an accountability partner. Set an exact time to arrive and leave. Have a car ride waiting outside or close by. Attend a recovery-related activity before or after, such as a meeting or special meal.
And then harm reduction during the holidays. So, trying to use privately can be dangerous. trying to use your supply for the day all at once because of privacy concerns can be dangerous. Mixing with other substances, especially alcohol, which is plentiful around the holidays, can be dangerous. Make sure to always have naloxone and Narcan. And what are some other harm reduction strategies that people can think of, that you all can think of? Now, I would also say to make sure that if you do use, not to use alone.
Having the never use alone number programmed into your phone. That way if something does happen, then somebody knows exactly where you're at.
What can loved ones do? Remind them that it's normal to feel. Talk with them about their feelings, anxiety, depression, guilt. Talk with other family members to try to educate and prepare them. Surround them with support. Let them know you're all glad that they are with the family this year. If some family are not okay with the situation, possibly ask them to save it for another day, another conversation. Let the holidays be a safe time for togetherness.
What can providers/therapists do? Identify recovery meetings or special meals on holidays. Being mindful of increased stress during holidays for some. Ensuring patients know who to contact in crisis when offices close or the regular contact may be on leave. What do others think? What are some other things that could be helpful?
So I know, like, talking with my therapist about potential triggers or potential events that may happen, and kind of doing like a role play with them to prepare myself, as well as having that conversation that I may not want to have with my family member before a holiday event, to be like, hey, this might trigger some emotions if I do this, to kind of give my extra family member an idea of what, if I step away, it's not because I don't want to be here. It's not because I'm using or whatever. So like having those conversations with therapists or providers and doing that role play to maybe make me feel more comfortable to have those interactions with my family during that time. Does anybody else have anything they can think of?
So here, what we're going to do, these are just some cases, we're going to read it and then we're just going to discuss this. But case 1, Jason has been in recovery for 2 years and hasn't been home for Christmas since being in recovery. He really wants to go home because he has nowhere else to spend Christmas and misses his family. Jason knows that some family members are in active use and there will also be alcohol there. Jason is conflicted on what he should do because he knows if he does go, he will be triggered, but he also doesn't want to spend Christmas alone. What could Jason do? So we're just going to talk about it. What are some things that Jason could do to help him get through, that particular situation?
Well, I find that if there's going to be drinking going on, I like to go a little bit early and leave just a little bit early. It just works out better with my people if I show up a couple hours early and then leave a couple hours early and don't stay for all of it.
Okay, yeah.
You could have a conversation with family and just let them know that, hey, this could be triggering, if I step away, if I step outside for a while or whatever to get away from it, that this is for my own well-being, because this may bother me somewhat.
Yeah. And, and I think also too, it's important, like I know that, and I say that because I, similar situation with, my spouse and his family and then me versus my family, because I don't really have to, to deal with that, but he kind of does. And, and I try to encourage him that, like, I get it can be depressing and upsetting because, you don't really have nothing going on with your family. But that's not just your only family. Like you create a family as well. You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't always have to be about blood family. you know, we can build our own friendships and family, and we can create our own traditions and own holidays as well. It doesn't have to always be about, you know, our blood family and what they're doing. And I feel like, you know, that's important to remember sometimes as well.
He could also bring somebody else with him to support him, have an exit strategy and plan, like he rides with somebody else instead of somebody that may stay for a long time. Have somebody he can call, have a plan to go to meeting or support group before and after, or on Zoom. You know, there's meetings all the time. So,
Yep. Does anybody else have any ideas they would like to share?
Yeah, this Thanksgiving, whenever I went down to my in-laws, there was drinking there, and I just plainly just stated, you know, hey, don't offer me nothing or I'll leave, period.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and honestly, I thought, like my wife, she thought I was being kind of arrogant about it, you know, or whatever the word would be, but it worked out pretty well because nobody offered me nothing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Just letting, you know, everybody know up front, like, hey, you know, I don't want nothing to do with this. So,
case number 2, Sabrina has been in recovery for 8 months and is currently on MOUD. Her parents are having a Christmas dinner and Sabrina's kids will be there. She hasn't seen her kids or parents in 2 years and is excited to see them. Her parents are not supportive of her recovery and don't know that she is on MOUD. She knows that her parents will bring up her recovery and Sabrina doesn't know how she should approach it. This is a very overwhelming for her and the trigger. How should Sabrina approach this with her parents?
if it was me, you know, she doesn't have to tell her parents, you know, that she's on MOUD. Of course, if she wanted to, she could, but you know, if I was in a situation like that, which I do have some experience with that, but you know, I wouldn't say nothing and I would just wait and let my parents see the difference in me, let them see the changes that I'm making over time. And, you know, after a few years or so, you know, and then maybe let them know, like, you know, hey, my pathway has been MOUD. You know, the reason I've been so successful in my recovery is because of the MOUD.
I agree with that, Erin. I've had some experience with that as well. And I don't feel like that's something that I have to share with everybody. So I don't feel like that would be the time for that conversation with her parents. I feel like, you know, if she wanted to talk about recovery and how life is going, but yeah, she doesn't have to share that medication, the MOUD part with her, and maybe talking with her parents about, you know, beforehand, like, this is how she doesn't want to have these difficult conversations. Can we save these for another time? And then also if she could talk to somebody else, because that's had experience with reuniting with their kids and how that can be overwhelming. Like Patrick shared, like how he was so excited, but you know, it was so much to be around their kids. So just having her prepared for that and sharing some conversations with her for their peer support, recovery coach, therapist, or whatever would be really helpful for her moving before the dinner.
Yeah, I agree. I like all of those ideas. Does anybody else have any other ideas they would like to share?
Yeah, I really like what both of y'all said. Also, Kathy said, is like, maybe if you want to talk about it another time, like the ways that I am recovering, we can sit down and talk about it. And then even getting them educational bits, like we share with people in the community and things like that, and having that stuff ready for them at another day, just not like that day. And just having a conversation. Look, if you want to talk about my recovery and I'll tell you about how things are going. But if you want to know personally, like things that are real personal, then maybe we should set up another day to talk about them things, and then having all these educational pieces for them to share with them at that point. But I really like holding off on sharing that information.
Yeah, I like all of that. Thank you. Does anybody else want to add anything? You know, I think it's also just important to remember that, you know, regardless of what your situation is, You know, the holidays, they don't have to be spent with blood family. Your family is what you make it. Have whatever traditions you want to have. And, you know, and if you do spend it with family and you have unresolved issues, you know, set another day and time, place to take care of all of that and just, you know, enjoy the holidays as best as you can.
Or does anybody have anything they would like to share about holidays or what they're going through or anything? They're more than welcome to.
I have a question for the group. Both of you mentioned, in fact, several of you made comments about the stress you experience with family members around the holidays. Can you provide like good examples of what family members could do that would be helpful, and maybe some examples that were not helpful and it created more stress? I mean, I'm asking, you know, what is the best way a family member could be when it's the first holiday for someone that's in recovery?
You know, just being there and being, you know, patient and understanding and not overwhelming them with, you know, a bunch of questions or, you know, making them feel like you're judging them. Because, you know, when it's your first holiday in recovery and you're, you know, going around family that you haven't seen for a while, or, you know, they haven't seen you since you've been in recovery, whatever the situation might be, you know, it can be very intimidating and very overwhelming because, you know, a lot of times these are new emotions and feelings that we're, you know, feeling for the first time because for years we've, you know, numbed that by using. And so it can become very overwhelming. And so just, you know, being there to show that, like, hey, you know, we are here to support you. We love you, and not giving too much, you know, push for what you think they should be doing or any, you know, judgment, making them feel like there's any judgment coming from you or anything.
I think for me to have a family member come up and if they notice that I may be acting a little bit different or anxiety, because my anxiety goes up when I'm around them. For maybe a family member to take me to the side and talk to me and be like, hey, are you okay? You know, would you like to talk? Is there anything I can do to make you feel more comfortable? Just that extra support to be there and be like, it's okay if you need to leave. It's okay if you need to do these things for you. It's okay if you don't feel comfortable here right now. Like, I understand, you know, your recovery and you are the most important thing, you know, and just that extra support to show love and that know that, like, if I can't stay the whole time, it's okay. Just that extra support and love, and to have somebody care about how I feel and what I'm going through, other than like feeling judged by family or feeling like, oh, I don't belong here and stuff. Because I know that for me, that's a lot of feeling that I felt being around family throughout the years of even when I was using. I just felt like I didn't belong, and that same feeling, even though once I got into recovery, that feeling still is there, that dis-ease, that kind of uncomfortable feeling around everybody. So
I know for me personally, I like the holidays, and I kind of welcome the tough situations, you know, the emotions and the problems that the holidays and family members bring to my recovery, because I feel like each time I'm presented with a problem or an obstacle or a challenge that I overcome, it makes me stronger in my recovery, and it makes me more steadfast in my thinking. So those tough situations, those triggers and stuff, I tend to run towards those triggers. I tend to run towards those tough situations. I tend to run towards those emotions so that I can overcome them and grow and learn from them. You know, I welcome the change. I welcome the challenge. I no longer see it as an obstacle to hold me back, but an obstacle to propel me forward. And I think the biggest thing that my recovery has brought me is a relationship with God. And I trust in God, and I trust his process in which he is helping me grow as an individual. So I guess just to wrap my little speech up is, you know, welcome the change, welcome the challenges, man. Run towards your problems. Don't run away from them. Because I feel like if I'm constantly running from my addiction, if I'm constantly running from my problems, I'm never going to solve them, because I'm never looking for a solution. I'm just looking to put it on the back burner. I'm always going to be, I'm always going to, suffer from, substance abuse disorder. I'm always going to, feel this way. I'm always going to have these problems with my family. And I don't want to feel that way. I want to overcome all that stuff. So, bring it on, man. Like put me in an uncomfortable situation, put me around my triggers, because I know at the end of the day, I'm going to come out ahead. So, thank you for helping me grow is the way I look at those tough situations.
I think for me, for my family, what I said to them was, the holidays aren't the time to rehash things I've done in my past. So kind of browbeating me or wanting to remind me of the things I did in addiction. It's just not the time for it. So letting my family know that this just isn't the time, and what everybody else said, like Kathy said, just asking, are you okay? Those are some things families can do. And definitely, like I said, don't bring that stuff up from the past. It's just not the time. And for me, I was already anxious and overwhelmed to begin with. And having them bring that stuff up to me in that moment really just kind of makes it worse. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, Shirley, you're right. That's setting a healthy boundary. That's what so this presentation was kind of about. Like if people are saying things and doing things to you that you don't appreciate and you aren't welcome, then this is what I'm doing in my boundaries. I'm saying, look, man, I don't want to be spoke to that way. I don't want to be addressed that way. I don't want to be pushed that way. I don't want any way. That's not how I want to do things. And you can either accept that and invite me into your life, your situation, or you can tell me, no, I'm not going to accept that because you're setting a boundary too, and I'm setting a boundary. So we can go separate ways. You can enjoy your life and I'll enjoy my life, and we can agree to disagree. And that's a healthy boundary for you and them. So I commend you on that.
One of the things that I noticed with my family, especially the first Christmas, because you asked like what family members could do. My family was a little divided on recovery because of all the harm I had done, not just to myself, but to them as well. And, my mom and I always enjoyed, a glass of wine while we were cooking dinner. Okay, let's be real. It was more than a glass. It was like several bottles. But that first year in recovery, my dad didn't buy any alcoholic beverages. And when my mom spoke up and said something about it, my dad just kind of looked at her like, the look that a parent would give a small child whenever, I know, Erin, my camera's being weird. But like that look that a parent would give a small child whenever they're in public and they don't want to discipline them, but they give them that parent look, well, that was the look that my dad gave my mom, like, shh, we're not going to talk about it. And I thanked my dad. I didn't do it in front of my mom because she had been scolded enough by my daddy's look, but I thanked my dad off to the side. I was like, thanks, I appreciate that. That means a lot to me. And from that on, like, it opened up conversation with me and my dad. Not there at Christmas, and kids are a great detour on Christmas if there's a lot of kids in the family. I personally have 6 grandchildren. I didn't have that many the first year. I only had, I think, 4. Yeah, I only had 4 that first year, but they were great little detours because they wanted to watch this cartoon or they wanted to play this game and so utilize little people in your family if you have any to like have activities that you can do as a family, and if your recovering person is standoffish at it, don't force them. If they don't want to participate, don't make them participate. Let them be an observer if they want to be an observer, because those children will bring them in for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's hard to be around little people asking you to participate in something and you being, a butthead and saying no to a bunch of little people. So for me, they saved my life on my first Christmas with my parents. And there's always that one person, like it sounds like you might be that one person in your family that wants to know how you can support your recovering person. And that's how, just like be observant and don't, and like you don't walk on eggshells either, you know? Like, if you see them being standoffish, don't be afraid to say, hey, you need a minute or, you know, and don't be afraid to ask them for help. Oh my goodness, whenever my dad just asked me what I thought about, you know, some rolls in the oven or something very minute and simple, it made me feel part of, you know, or like whenever he said, you know, can you go see what they're doing in there? Because, you know, kids get quiet and you got to pay attention to that. And like there was other grownups in the room, but like he asked me to be a part of. So any little thing that you can see that they might want to be, you know, not like, you know, cook the ham or, you know, put up the tree or nothing, but like little things to make somebody feel a part of. And I applaud you for asking a room full of people in recovery how you can make your person of recovery feel more a part of, because that takes courage. And I applaud you, and I hope you have a great holiday with your family.
There was one more in the chat that kind of concluded what Kristen was saying. It talks about family members are sometimes used to excluding us from things. So make sure that you all are making us feel included. Don't be afraid to ask us to take a little bit of responsibility, like cleaning up or helping out, like Kristen was saying, like making us feel a part of and having a purpose really makes us feel a lot more comfort and calm. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Does anybody else have any other questions, concerns, anything they would like to add, say? The floor is yours. So